This is Democracy Watch. Mark, anyone who's been watching Missouri has gotten whiplash in the last few days. We went from a stunningly anti-democratic move to an even more surprising solution here. Can you explain what just happened?
Yeah, so this is big news out of Missouri. You know, the people who have been sponsoring this pro-abortion rights ballot measure did everything right. They gathered all the signatures, they put together all the paperwork, and it has been one obstacle after another. The Republican Secretary of State, Jay Ashcroft, tried to kill this by decertifying this question. That went up the state court system all the way to the Missouri Supreme Court, and the Missouri Supreme Court ruled that the amendment has to be put back on the ballot and ordered Jay Ashcroft to certify it. So good news for the voters of Missouri.
At this point, and just for posterity here, now that the Missouri Supreme Court has ruled, does the Secretary of State, Ashcroft, does his decision carry any weight?
No, his decision now is null and void. In fact, an interesting side note to this is that the proponents of this ballot measure had actually asked the Missouri Supreme Court to hold him in contempt, right, for doing this. The court denied the contempt motion, but did put an end to this, right? So the state Supreme Court said, look, we're not going to hold him in contempt, but his effort to block this is null and void. And so this will be on the ballot. That is the end of this story, and it is a rare happy ending for a story that involves a conservative election official and a somewhat conservative state Supreme Court.
Well, Mark, knowing that this decision wouldn't supersede that of the Missouri Supreme Court, what was the point of Ashcroft issuing his little edict beforehand? Was this just like a PR move to bolster his Trumpy bona fides, knowing that at the end of the day, it wouldn't really matter what he says because his decision wouldn't be the most important one, wouldn't be binding?
Yeah, so look, I think that there's a twofer in this for him. And we've talked about this a lot in the context of both some of the voting rights cases and the ballot measure cases. The state officials would rather lose in court than do the right thing. Right? They want to be Bull Connor with their arms folded at the schoolhouse doors and being forced to step aside, right? They don't want to be seen as complying with the law because they feel like politically it is better for them to fight and lose than to be seen as someone who is facilitating the will of the public. Now, that's a perverse way of looking at things, but that I think is unfortunately where many Republican elected officials are these days. And then the second is that I think he hoped that, maybe in the Missouri Supreme Court he'd have a chance of winning, that maybe a conservative court would do what he wanted them to do. But, what's been interesting is that even these conservative courts in state after state after state, whether it is Ohio, where we saw the conservative Ohio Supreme Court rule against that state Secretary of State around the abortion ballot initiative, whether it is the Florida Supreme Court, which did not deliver what I think Ron DeSantis hoped that they would deliver around the ballot initiatives. These state Supreme Courts have been very loath to overturn and prevent these very popular ballot initiatives from moving forward.
Just a quick note, what this does, by the way, for those watching right now, is underscore the importance that fighting these battles in the court has. So that's exactly what Mark and his team have been doing. For those who are looking to support the work of Mark and his team, please make sure to sign up for Democracy Docket. It's the free news outlet Mark founded to focus on everything voting and elections. I'll put the link right here on the screen and also in the post description of this video. Mark, did the fact that a right-wing state Supreme Court in a red state ruled against the party line in the GOP surprise you?
Not entirely. Again, we have seen this pattern emerge of state Supreme Court justices really being protective of their state's ballot initiative and referenda. Now, not universally, there have been some exceptions to this, but it's actually quite interesting, because I'm from New York. I know you're originally from New Jersey. These are not states that have deep traditions of ballot initiatives or popular referenda. So, I think I was sort of late to understanding just how deeply ingrained in other parts of the country are the notion that the public should have a say in these kinds of things. And I think that therefore, while I may have been surprised in some of the early wins that the pro-ballot measure forces had before conservative courts, at this point, it seems clear to me that where this is culturally ingrained in the legal system and in the political system, Republican elected officials are the ones really out of step. step. And even conservative courts don't want to be seen as trampling on something that is a very important part of their political system.
Right. That's a good point. What are the implications in Missouri now of having an abortion rights referendum on the ballot?
Well, I mean, it is earth-shattering. I mean, in many respects, it both shapes national politics and state and local politics. At a national level, just look at what Donald Trump is doing. I mean, he is tying himself in knots. I think he last declared himself the fertilization leader of fertilization.
Fertilization champion, yeah. Donald Trump, fertilization champion. There was, I can't remember who it was, but somebody had tweeted out during the debate, "Please, dear God, ask him what IVF stands for."
Right. I mean, Donald Trump is running away from this abortion issue because he is seeing what is happening in the conservative states. If this was just a blue state phenomenon, Donald Trump and the Republican Party would not be in complete disarray. They are in disarray because they see what is happening in conservative states over this abortion issue. And obviously they are worried about what it means for their electoral prospects at a national level, whether it's control of the House or the Senate or the presidency. At the local level, this means that if you're on the ballot in Missouri and you're a Republican, you're going to have a whole lot of people turning out to vote who are really angry at you for what you've been doing, both on the substance of the policy, trying to ban abortion, but also on trying to muck with democracy. Right. Trying to take away from people their right to have voice on this. So this has the potential to shape both, kind of the national narrative around this and how politicians around the country handle this on the Republican side, but particularly in Missouri.
Well, there are folks out there who see somebody like Lucas Kunce, for example, running against Josh Hawley for the U.S. Senate in Missouri, and who might think that it's not worth it to contest that seat because Missouri's a red state. Does having abortion on the ballot now change the calculus here?
Of course it changes the calculus. It changes it absolutely in states like Missouri. It changes it in states like Florida,
Right.
I mean, the fact is these are deeply, deeply unpopular policies that the Republicans have caught themselves up in. And when we talk about a state being a red state, we're not talking about it being a 70-30 red state. Missouri had a Democratic senator. Claire McCaskill was a Democratic senator not that long ago. It had a Democratic governor, Jay Nixon, not that long ago. I mean, these are still, you're talking about 55-45 states. And
right.
Where you have an issue like abortion that is so prominent and such a driver of people's day-to-day reason to vote, not that they don't care about who the senators are in their states, they do, but they really care about things like this, which is why these ballot issues are so sacrosanct in these states, that it very much can shape not just how people view the candidates, but who turns out to vote. And in those kinds of elections where you have someone like Josh Hawley, who is, just absolutely an extremist, it absolutely starts to put Senate races in play.
Perfectly put. Again, amid this good news from the Missouri Supreme Court, again, this underscores the importance of fighting these battles in the courts. So for people watching right now, to support the invaluable work that Marc and his team are doing, please, again, sign up for Democracy Docket. I'll put the link right here on the screen and also in the post description of this video. I'm Brian Tyler Cohen.
I'm Marc Elias.
This is Democracy Watch.